And hello, Bronxites. I'm your host, Darren Jaime. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2013. Of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We encourage you to stay connected to us to all of our social media sites, and so we tell you to tweet us at BronxNet TV. And of course, you can like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, after months of protesting Fresh Direct's move to the Bronx, South Bronx Unite has recently filed a lawsuit arguing that Fresh Direct has not allowed environmental standards or sufficiently given back to the Bronx. Here to share more about their work to protect Bronxites is Michael Johnson from South Bronx United. We welcome you to the show, Michael.
Thank you.
When we talk about this here, you're opposed to Fresh Direct coming in. There are many people who say it's good. There are many people who say it's an economic stimulus to the Bronx, but you say something totally different.
Yeah, well, you know, looking at how this project came about, it came about without any public participation. It was announced as a done deal 2 days before the very first public hearing that was located downtown on William Street in Manhattan at 10 o'clock in the morning. So and none of the information about the project and what it really meant to the community wasn't given or provided to the community from a ground up or from a top down type of perspective. Well, we didn't understand or didn't know at the time that a full environmental impact statement had not been done on that property, on that particular site. They're trying to do a 500,000 square foot facility on a plot of land that's right in the center or at the brink point of where we have like asthma rates 8 times the national average. So anytime you do a project of that capacity, you have to do an environmental impact statement. One wasn't done. They're relying on one that was done 21 years ago. And what community really expects that to be a model of respect? Nowhere else in New York City would that be allowed. And what we're saying is the impact to the community at large, that is directly the people who live right there, are not being taken into account when you're talking about bringing 938 diesel truck trips per day. That has to have an effect on our environment, especially with the high asthma rates, you know, and all the other type of respiratory illnesses that we have. I mean, your show today is about health in our community, you know, and the health of our community is paramount to our children of Mott Haven, Port Morris, Melrose, you know, and also Hunts Point. I mean, we're talking about
yeah, let me
a lot going on there.
There's a lot, but and I want to get to that because as a resident,
yes,
what do you feel like is going on there right now? I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's overcrowded? Do you feel like there's a lot of traffic? What do you feel?
Well, if you come across the Willis Avenue Bridge where it intersects with Bruckner Boulevard, there's an extremely large amount of traffic. The area that has most of the industrial usage is called Harlem River Rail Yard. Okay, right now we have the New York Post and Wall Street Journal printing and distribution facility on that land. We have a FedEx hub. We have a 5,000 ton per day waste transfer station. We have 2 fossil fuel power plants. So we got garbage trucks and diesel trucks running through there like 50 going west. I mean, going across the 3rd Avenue Bridge and throughout our community. So it's that it's overburdened right now with traffic. We're not saying we understand the need for jobs, but we're saying we shouldn't have to take jobs for exchange of our health. You know, if our children are suffering from health illnesses, from asthma-related illnesses, which is 5 times, you know, the national average in terms of being admitted in hospitals in our community, it's just that they will miss school. That has poor education, poor employment. It's a cycle of poverty. So we have to think differently about how we create jobs, and giving one company $127 million to come and relocate from Long Island City to our community without doing a thorough environmental impact statement seems disrespectful, at least, and just not due diligence at most.
And March the 1st, you had a statement to the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council.
Yes.
How do you feel your statement was received?
I think, like, you know, I've done multiple public hearings with city officials, with state government bodies about this process and about this project. And I think a lot of times it goes on deaf ears because they feel like it's been something that's been passed down from above, from the governor, from the mayor, you know, as being something that's been good for the Bronx and good for New York. And I think Fresh Direct leveraged New Jersey off of New York in terms of getting a $127 million tax subsidy package, because they thought, well, New Jersey's going to give them $100 million, and they may relocate their business to New Jersey and take their jobs with them. But their product line and the people they're serving is in Manhattan. In their 10-year history, they never serviced the Bronx. They serviced Riverdale, but they didn't serve the entire Bronx. And now since this whole deal came about, now they want to service the Bronx. But they're not, it's not over yet. And we're still fighting it because we think the community should be respected enough to get an environmental impact statement, and then an audit of the actual lease should be taken into account. Because the lease of the land, and we're talking about the Harlem River Yard, was leased 21 years ago for 99 years. And they're trying to say that the environmental impact statement that was done 21 years ago is good in perpetuity for the entire 99 years. What does that make? How does that make sense, first of all? And then the public benefit for public land has to be somewhere involved in that contract, and that was originally sought to be intermodal rail use. That would be the public benefit to reduce truck traffic in the region of New York City, of the New York region, across the bridges, the tunnels, the highways, you know, the reduced cost of maintenance of these highways. But they've not done intermodal rail there. They've only brought in truck-intensive traffic there, and they want to bring in more. And we're saying, enough of dumping on our community, enough of not respecting us by giving us an environmental study that would show how the impacts really affect us, and our children's lives are at stake. I mean, if you go to the South, if you go to our community, in most communities in the Bronx, that are circled by the Deegan, the Bruckner, and the Cross Bronx Expressway, no one does not know someone who doesn't have asthma. So it seems like an epidemic, but where we're handling it is saying, well, we need to employ, we need jobs, so take the truck traffic and the diesel fumes in exchange for jobs. And it doesn't weigh out, especially when, you know, Fresh Direct is not held to living wage requirements, and it's a whole other issue around income.
No, we can take this. We can take this in a bigger conversation a little bit later. But I want to ask this question: give me you've got a whole lot of people behind you. It's like the Verizon commercial. You do have a whole lot of people behind you who are saying enough is enough. Talk about the movement of community residents and what's being done.
Well, South Bronx Unite is actually a coalition of more than 30 organizations that are doing work around environmental justice, social justice, or have a real stake in the community and feel that some of our basic asks in terms of the platform of South Bronx Unite should be respected, and so they sign onto the platform. We have a boycott of more than 800 signatures on our boycott petition. We've had more than 23 or 24,000 visitors to our site. The people in our community, when we've had our outreach in our community and stand on a street corner and walk and talk to people in public housing, which a great deal of this traffic will be going by, understand that here it is, promises of jobs, but we know what we will receive. We've always received promises. But what we get in exchange of those promises have always seemingly fell short of the goals that were promised initially. You know, for instance, Yankee Stadium, Gateway Mall, all these different projects that said, well, we're going to give you 5,000 jobs, or we're going to provide, you know, great jobs for people in the community, and it provides some, but it doesn't meet those standards. But we're giving up a lot in exchange, you know, for those promises. You talk about the word economic injustice, but you want to talk about environmental injustice. How much does this mean to you? It means a great deal to me. My daughter, my family, we live there. I see people who in the community don't really understand why they're sick. I've seen several friends die of respiratory illnesses, from lung cancer to leukemia to all type of things that don't happen, or illnesses that don't happen in other places. So it seems like someone has to stand up and speak for the voiceless, and that's what our job is to make sure that our community is respected and the children have someone who advocates for their future. All right. Well, Michael Johnson, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us here. We'll continue to update this story and follow it here on Open. Michael Johnson.